Hello there, folks, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be exploring the new Chaos Battletome for the Slaves to Darkness for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I'm going to approach this one slightly differently from the last couple that I did for the Skaven and the Stormcast Eternals, in that I'm just going to kind of go for a sort of overall view of the book rather than kind of break it down into the lore thing and then the rules element as well, because I think there's some interesting sort of key elements of the Battletome that I wanted to talk about, and I just think it's a little bit more of an interesting format for most people as well, to give my thoughts in a sort of more opinion-based style rather than just flicking through the book and showing you each thing page by page. So I'm just going to start going, really. One of the things that I've really started to enjoy about the new edition of Age of Sigmar is the fact that the designers have started to really drill down into what makes each of the factions tick, and also explore interesting sort of key elements of each of the factions that make them feel very different from each other, and also what makes Age of Sigmar a lot more of a nuanced world for you to dive into than the likes of, for example, Warhammer 40,000. I think Chaos in Warhammer 40,000 are just kind of like evil for the sake of evil, if you know what I mean. But what you get with Chaos and the Slaves to Darkness in Warhammer Age of Sigmar is a little bit of nuance, and I think that's kind of lost in the grimdark future. And I think that comes across very much so within the different characters that you get for Chaos now and the Slaves to Darkness. One thing in particular that I've really liked is the addition of the Darkoath. The Darkoath are kind of like your marauders of old, and one of the things that was always interesting to me is that I liked the idea that, especially in the world of Warhammer Fantasy as well, they were sort of unwitting agents of chaos. They kind of knew that they were giving themselves over to some darker power or something, but they always came at it from the viewpoint that they were being given power and given something that wasn't given to them by the likes of Sigmar, for example, in Warhammer, and by extension, the Mortal Realms. And so you see that carried over in the way that they're presented as part of this. And I think it's really interesting, sort of tying back to the idea of the name of this faction, the Slaves to Darkness. They are almost unwitting, in a way, to the plans and the machinations of the various chaos gods and sort of what is really going on behind the scenes. And I think that's kind of brought to the core brought to the front all the more by Gunnar Brand and his tribe, who have made such a large impact on the storyline for in the kind of end period of the last edition and the start of this one. And you really get to see that represented as part of the book when you look at the way that the Brands interact with the Chaos Gods alongside the Tackbloods and the Savage Kings of Aridian. There you go, that's the way to say that. And sort of how they're presented. Like, there's a really nice bit in here where Gunnar realised that he's unwittingly been used by the Skaven to enact and by extension the Chaos Gods, to enact what Archaeon's plan was, to kind of sunder the realms and bring the Skaven in alongside him. And I really think that they've done a fantastic job of portraying why Gunnar is so incredibly against the idea of this, and how that sort of fits with the wider narrative of the Chaos factions and kind of how they're split down, really, because I don't think Gunnar would be massively opposed to fighting Bellacor's forces or Archaeon's forces over the course of, campaigns and the narrative going forward. You kind of get a little bit of that backstory through here from Archaeon, and I always also like that there's almost that kind of back and forth happening between Archaeon and Bellacor in here as well, so nothing is ever entirely kind of on the line for any of the factions that are involved in this, really. Archaeon has his own things that he's trying to do. Bellacor's trying to do lots of things to undermine Archaeon. They both have their sort of chosen warriors. So Bellacor has a Turnus, which is a kind of mockery of the Stormcast Eternals, whereas for Archaeon, he has Abraxia, who is his mightiest warrior with her demon spear, and they are definitely going to come to blows, I'm sure, in future stories for the Slaves to Darkness. And I think in general, this Battletome has done a really nice job of kind of portraying that throughout all of the narrative and the themes that we've seen sort of built up in the background lore that you get at the front of the book. There's still lots of stuff in here for people who want to play a more classic Chaos Force. So if you want to do your kind of standard Chosen and stuff, you can obviously go down that route. But I like that they've added in the element of, again, nuance, I suppose you'd say, and also different sort of narratives in here. So you can instead just kind of throw your lot in with Be'lakor, for example, have an army that's maybe run by Eternus alongside the likes of the Centurion Marshals and stuff, and some of the troops that he has under his wing. You also have a little bit more lore and stuff explained about the Myrmidons and the Theridons and how they were a faction that was kind of more aligned to Gork and Walker and Destruction, but they kind of made a little bit of a bargain with the Chaos Gods, and they've almost been brought in line with Chaos to kind of work as their Forge Masters. And even though I know some people don't like the look of the miniatures and things for the Myrmidons and the Theridons, I think they look fantastic. I'd love to do an army just themed around them. That would be really fun, I think. Better Minotaurs than in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, that's for sure. But I think for me, one of the things that really drew me to the Slaves to Darkness, and it's something that I'm always kind of warring with when it comes to kind of what I do next for the Mortal Realms and where I want to take my hobby, is the sort of exploration of the Darkoath. I think the Darkoath and having like a barbarian styled army is really cool because in essence, yes, you are kind of aligning yourself to the Chaos Gods, but you can be doing it from a kind of anti-hero standpoint. Like Gunnar isn't inherently a bad person. He's doing things for the good of his family and all that kind of thing, but he does that by doing evil things like murder and pillaging and all that kind of thing. But you could easily tell some really interesting stories as part of the Darkoath and building up your armies, especially if you were diving into something like Ravage Coast and telling a Path to Glory campaign. I think you could have really good fun with that and kind of the warring moral compass within your Chaos Force as it starts to grow and grow over the course of a campaign. Again, they're broken down into like the chieftains and the war queens alongside your standard marauders. I love the background behind the Darkoath Wilder Fiend as well. How they were chieftains who maybe didn't please the gods, and so that as a reward or punishment, maybe the two combined, they were turned into horrible beasts, but they still have that allegiance to their tribe. And so they will always work in the background to kind of help their tribe as long as they get the sacrifices. And it's a really neat little sort of bonus thing added to the Darkoath to kind of expand their background and their history without just giving us more barbarians, effectively, which is good. So yeah, I think especially if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily want to paint armor and you want to try something different with Chaos, there's something to be said about going down the Oathsworn route and the Darkoath and playing around with these characters, especially if you use the brands as the kind of focal point of your army. It's definitely worth having a look at. They have some very cool models in there. It's a shame that some of the models are still a little bit old. I mean, these kind of work okay, carrying over from the initial set of stuff from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. The Chaos Spawns desperately need an upgrade because they are so old and bad. A lot of this stuff also comes then from what's it called? Warcry, the skirmish game, which is no bad thing. That kind of really expanded on Chaos in a good way, which is always nice to see. But essentially, it kind of breaks down into the kind of classic stuff that you've seen for Chaos in the last while. You'll have a lot of stuff that is kind of tied to particular legions, so you pledge yourself. This is kind of like the new thing that they've done for the game. So you have the Pledge to Chaos thing where you pick a friend at the once per turn, your hero's the start of your hero phase. Pledge to Chaos, pick a friendly non-unique Slaves to Darkness unit that does not already have one of the keywords below and pledge them to Chaos. They have that keyword for the rest of the battle, and then that applies to their various abilities, as you can see there. Dark Apotheosis is still a thing, so at the end you'll sort of start to attain Dark Apotheosis points, and you can spend those to either create the Aura of Chaos, which does the healing, or you can ascend to Demonhood, which is pretty cool. And depending on what kind of demon you were, what kind of pledge you made, that's the kind of demon that you turn into, which is rather awesome. You also have different battle formations. So you have your Darkoath Hordes, you have your Despoilers, which is more Demon Prince themed, the God's Wrath warband there. And then there's also the Legion of Chaos, which is very cool. A carryover of kind of classic heroic traits, and the Artifacts of Power and the Spell Laws as well. One of the things they also did change was these ensorcelled banners. So these are banners that you can choose for your various armies, and they work based on the pledge that you've given to a particular... Well, they essentially give the pledged to version of the rules to a unit before you having to do it at the start of the game. Well, during the hero phase, sorry. So it's a good way for you to kind of like set things out straight away, which is very cool. But that only applies to particular Slaves of Darkness infantry, cavalry, and cavalry units that have the standard bearer keyword, of course. So we're about to apply those and have some fun with them. I'm not going to go through all of the various rules for all the different characters. A couple that I really like are Abraxia. I love her character, and I really like her weapon, which is Gorbulga the Accursed, which is a gift from the Everchosen, which is a mutating spear that can do as much damage to the wielder as the enemy, and it does different things depending on sort of when you're in contact with it, which is really cool. Nice little bonus there. I also really like Eternus, very cool character, even though I think routinely a lot of people consider him to be fairly bad. But it's nice to see that he's in there, and I like the fact that he can come back and stuff. And he also has the bonus of the Chaos Legionnaires and Chaos Furies sort of like all tied in together alongside Be'lakor, which is a good bonus. Demon Princes, Chaos Lords, Chaos Sorcerers, Orgroid Myrmidons and Therodons. So you've got your hero there alongside your standard infantry if you wanted to go down that route, which is very cool. I like that you could do an entire army themed around them. Chosen, which are still brutal. Chaos Warriors, the Legionnaires that we were talking about before. The very, very bad Gorbeast Chariot should definitely be changed, and so should the Chaos Chariot. They are way too small compared to the new cavalry units. And then my favourite little section, which is the Darkoath. I love the oaths that they can make. So the Oath of Murder, for example, for the Darkoath Chieftain. If this unit destroyed an enemy hero or monster this turn, it gets strike first for the rest of the battle. The Oath of Murder for the Darkoath Chieftain on foot. If they destroyed an enemy hero, they get strike first. The Oath of Supremacy. If this unit is wholly within enemy territory and charged this phase for the rest of the battle, add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Darkoath units that are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So it's all led by their heroes, which I think is a really nice way of focusing the Darkoath. And it also means that you've got something a little bit like the Space Wolves of Warhammer 40,000, where essentially you're building up really interesting narrative for your units over the course of a battle. And sort of how that plays out, which is a good thing to see. So you've got your Marauders, your Fell Riders, your Savages, which are the ones from Warcry, and then the Wilderfiend, alongside the particular characters for Gunnar Brand, Singri Brand, and the Oathsworn Kin, which is good. And then, of course, some of your monsters at the back there. Lots of those monsters for you to choose from, and some faction terrain, which is good. The new Spearhead is the Darkoath Raiders. I'm very tempted to pick this up, even though I know I don't need it, but it looks super cool, and I'd love to actually run it. I think it'd be really good. As a bonus, I do actually have a Darkoath War Queen sitting in my desk that I might actually come back and finish painting at some point, because I did have some fun painting her up back in the past. But that might be enough to kind of sate the need for a full Spearhead. We'll have to wait and see. I sense that it might not be. And I might end up buying this anyway, but there we go. Spearhead is a very dangerous thing. You have a little bit of a breakdown of how to make a battle-ready army in there, alongside all the rules for your various Spearhead units for the Darkoath Raiders, which is good. And then you have your Path to Glory section, which we have talked about in the past as well. So it comes with the new Ambit of Apotheosis that allows you to make a particular type of character. You can obviously go down the route of the Darkoath War Leader if I was going to do this, which comes with the Oath of Supremacy, which is the one that we've seen before, which is good. Nice bonus one there. And you can also do an Ogroid theme one if you wanted to, which is a nice way to go if you want to do the Myrmidon route. Well, this unit damage add 2 to the attack characteristics of its melee weapons. That is super cool. And obviously shows you what kind of units they can take as part of their regiments, which is bonus. The new Origins and Floors, I really like these again. Obviously good for Path to Glory. You can't use these in your standard match play games though. And then your mount upgrades, any other upgrades, and then your new paths as well. So you have a new hero-only Path of the Dark Champion, which comes with a couple of ones there. So you've got Marked for Greatness. This unit has Ward 6+. In addition, each time an unmodified War Rod of 6 is made, heal 1, or Demonic Pact, roll a d3. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on this unit equal to the roll, then pick one of its unit's melee weapons and add 1 to the results of its attack characteristics for the rest of the turn. Brutal. The Path of Ambition, non-heroes Slaves to Darkness units, which is good for your units there, alongside the stuff that you can find in Ravage Coast. And then there's a little bit of a breakdown of the new Armies of Renown, which is the Legion of the First Prince, which comes with bonus rules for a variety of Chaos troops for you to use in your games. So if you wanted to make a demonically themed army around Be'lakor, you can do. He tends to find himself aligning more with demons anyway. And then you have your Regiments of Renown, which are entirely useless if you already play Chaos, but they are there if you have someone who wants to take these in their armies, I suppose. So if you have a friend who plays Blades to Khorne or whatever, give them this book for a second so they can have a look at it. But you can get a unit of cavalry alongside some warriors there. You can get a Demon Prince, just a full-on Demon Prince. And then you also have the rules reference at the back, which kind of breaks everything down for you as well there. So, yeah, an interesting new Battletome for the Slaves to Darkness. I really like what they've done with it. I think the Darkoath stuff is particularly intriguing. And even though I think it's probably not going to be the best army on the tabletop, I think it's the most exciting army when it comes to a narrative standpoint and also play style as well. As I say, I'm very tempted to try and do something of my own with Slaves to Darkness in the future, but we shall see. My friend has a Slaves to Darkness army, so I'm kind of waiting before I dive head first, I think. But I already have a couple of characters, so it wouldn't take much to start trying out. Anyway, stop talking myself into doing it. New Battletome for the Slaves to Darkness looks absolutely fantastic. Really nice way for them to kind of like build on and change up the lore for them and give you more options. So they're not just a bunch of heavily armored brutes walking around despoiling everything. There's lots of nuance on here, which is something that I really like about Age of Sigmar and what they're presenting for people coming to the game for the first time. If you like Chaos and you want to play Slaves to Darkness, definitely worth picking up the Battletome for yourself and adding it to your collection. There's something to be said, I suppose, about the usefulness of these Battletomes when it comes to physical products alongside digital options. But I think because it comes with the Path to Glory stuff in there, if you're a narrative player, then there's something for you there, which is good to see. So yes, that was my kind of like overview of the new Slaves to Darkness Chaos Battletome. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to know what you have to say. Did you like it? Do you like the way that Path to Glory has been developing? What kind of themed Chaos army would you build? Yeah. I love having a chat, so please dive in and tell me your thoughts. I'm going to move on and get ready for another video. But yeah, fantastic stuff. Like, share, subscribe, do all that goodness, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye for now.